I'm Sean Percy, local councillor for the Sandfields East Ward on Neath Botobber Council. This video will focus on what services the council spends money on. It'll cover day-to-day or revenue expenditure, so that's things such as staff wages, utility bills, fuel, rent, routine maintenance, office supplies, and other things like that. The video won't be covering what's known as capital expenditure, which is money we spend on new buildings, major refurbishment works, buying land and that sort of thing. That's dealt with separately. So to begin with, we'll talk about how the council's arranged. So the council's arranged into what we call directorates, which is basically a fancy word for departments. So the four main departments we've got are education, leisure and lifelong learning, social services, health and housing, environment, and finance and corporate services. So each department's got its own budget. So let's look at the education, leisure and lifelong learning department. So that's got a budget currently of £109 million a year. So that department covers things such as schools funding, school transport, the youth service, translation unit, additional learning needs, leisure, so that's the subsidies the council pay to Celtic Leisure to run our theatres and leisure centres, country parks like Margam Park, our library service and our sports service. So to give a bit more of a flavour of that department, of the £109 million, £84 million goes straight to our schools as part of their budgets for them to spend the money on their running costs, their staffing and everything else. Our library service, for example, that has a budget of around 1.7 million, and that covers our 8 council-run libraries, the mobile library, support for schools and support for the 7 community-run libraries that we've currently got. So moving on to the next department, which is social services, health and housing. So that's got a department budget of around £80 million at the moment. So the main aspects of that department is adult and children's social services. We've got within that things like care packages, fostering, day centres, and then there's various other functions as well, such as housing support and homelessness, disabled facilities grants, so adapting people's houses so they can stay in their home, the welfare rights team. So that department currently spends around £22 million on children's services and £53 million on adult services. So moving on then to the environment department. So that's got a budget currently of £38 million. This is quite a big department and covers an awful lot of things that the council does, and an awful lot of our visible services. So things like roads, drainage, transport, flooding, street lighting, grass cutting, street cleaning, parks and playgrounds, cemeteries, waste and recycling, pest control, litter enforcement, dog control, rights of way, active travel, so walking and cycling routes, business support services, employability programs, regeneration, economic development, project management, property and estates management, including things like industrial estates, public toilets, planning and building control, environmental health and trading standards. There's various other things as well, but that's a bit of an overview. Moving on then to the final major department, which is finance and corporate services. So that's got a budget of around £18 million. That covers a lot of other functions that the council carries out. So things like our CCTV service, managing elections, births, deaths and marriages, the council's HR team, health and safety, training, the IT department, customer services, housing benefit, council tax and business rates administration, our budget strategy, community safety, so grants to third sector organisations, marketing, support for councillors and emergency planning. So to recap, we have 4 main departments are education, leisure, lifelong learning with £109 million spend, social services, health and housing with an £80 million spend, environment with a £38 million spend, and moving on to finance and corporate services with an £18 million spend. So that should give you a bit of a flavour of what we spend money on in the council. If you've got any questions, any comments, please leave a comment, send me a message. And as I said last time, I'll be doing a few more of these videos covering other aspects of what the council does. Thanks.